Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for visiting the site and watching this film, where we're going to be presenting the new features within Callidus with regard to tile planning. We've added quite a few new features in which extend the flexibility with regards to just not only quantifying but also how you present tiles on screen and colouring and various other bits and pieces. So I think by the end of this presentation you should be fairly familiar with what we've been doing. The first thing I should say is that if you're just doing your general square tiles, either 50 centimetre, 1 foot, 18-inch tiles, there's very little difference in the program. You can still achieve all of that, obviously. So the first thing I'll do is just show you how you do that. And all I've done is I've got a room here and it's covered in a 12-inch tile, and if I bring up the material editor, you will notice that the tile grid or the tile dialog box has changed. So what you've got up here is you've got the width of the tile and the length of the tile. So if I want to change that to 1 foot 6 and change that to 1 foot 6, by changing the numbers I press OK, quantify it, and in exactly the same way as the old program would do, that's quantified it and given us a net and gross area. So I can go back over here, change that back 1 foot, 1 foot. Okay, so if you're just doing your average installation of tiles, there's very little difference. And when we do the color summary, again you can zoom in and you'll see over here a new feature in the report which shows you a breakdown of each color. So as we move on from here, you'll see that this gets more and more detailed as we add different colors, different elements. So now that we've put this grid on the room, one of the new features in the program allows you to paint on screen the different colors. So I put the color summary on. We can see at the moment that all those tiles are yellow. If I want to change that color, I can just go into the material editor, and just as in the old program, you can change that color to anything you like and re-quantify it. And now what we've got is this tile painting toolbox up here, which is a new feature within the program. So if I press this button on the left here, it brings up what we call the tile picker. And what I do now is I pick another solid color. So I'm going to pick a darker red. And now what I can do is I pick up this rectangular tool and I can just draw in there. And you can see that what the program has done is found out where I've drawn and filled all those colors, all those tiles in deeper red. So if I want to undo that and do it somewhere else, I can just pick that up, pull it in. If it's a bit more complicated than that in terms of the shape I want to go, I can just use the line tool, draw along here, up there, over to there. So okay, so what I've done is I've just painted in some of those tiles and they've changed colour. But what you'll also find now is when I go back to do the report, the colour summary, you'll see over on the right here we've got this breakdown of the tiles. So what it's doing is it's keeping the gross area the same and the total number of tiles the same, but when you paint on screen the tiles, it keeps a breakdown of the colours. So of this pinkish tile here, we've got 279, and of that sort of more burgundy colour there, we've got 66. So by looking at that, you can see that you need 66 tiles to construct that border. Now if I go along here and I can then pick another tile or another colour for that tile and then go around on the inside of that and draw another border. That. And now when I do my color summary, we'll find we have a breakdown of 3 different tiles. So we've got those 66 in the burgundy color and there's 58 in that yellowy orange color. So again, we've got the numbers of each tile are broken out into this report, so that when you print that off, you'll get the exact number of tiles that you need to do the job. Okay, couple of other things you can do is that this is the line feature. You've got a rectangle feature, and you can also just go in and you can just paint on screen here with putting random colors in. I can go in and I can say, well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to use that burgundy, but rather than picking it from here, I can use the eyedropper tool and click on one of the burgundy tiles. That color is selected. Then I go into the sort of the freeform painting tool. I should point out here, this is not I wouldn't say that this design is going to win any prizes as a flooring installation, so I'm only doing this to demonstrate what you can do with the program. Again, go back to the color summary, and we're still using the same three colors, but the quantities will change now because I've put those different spots in of different colors. So what you've got with this feature is, if you like, a complete flexibility to put a grid down on the floor and then paint that grid with different colors to create borders, just colored features within the room, and you can do what you want with it, and then the program is always keeping count of which colors go where and give you the totals. This new ability to paint tiles and to paint boxes of tiles can be extremely useful where you've got rooms that are a bit like this, where for one reason or other either you've got a bad drawing or it's just a room in an old building where there are no square walls. So basically you've got a room with nothing square in it at all. But what we do is we put in our grid of tiles, so that gives us our quantities. But now what I'm going to do is to just put in a bright yellow rectangular border. So all I do is I pick this box icon up here and I click down in one corner and I hold the mouse down and drag it out to where I want the border to finish. Now when I let go, you can see that the program has coloured all those tiles in yellow, and when I was drawing the border, it keeps that border relative to the pile direction of the room, so it's very easy to draw blocks in of different colours. And the nice thing about this is that in a room like that where you wanted to create an appearance of regularity, you've got a nice regular grid, you've got a perfectly regular border, and then the outfill here is just flowing into whatever the room is. But when you stand in the middle of the room, your eye is taken to, you know, a nice regular featured border. And again, if you want to put in a different colour in there, let's go on here. Again, these colours should not be used in real life, but they're there to give you an indication of what you can do. So I've just created another border inside there, and if I wanted to, I could put a couple of straightforward lines in here. So, you know, maybe I would want to do something like that, just to create a very simple design. But the important thing is, while I'm happily just painting on screen, the program is counting the different tiles for me, so that when I do my color summary over here, I get my breakdown in terms of actual tiles on the floor. So that's showing you how you just plan a straightforward regular tile, and you can go in and paint colours on the screen, and the program is going to look after your quantities for you. The next thing I want to move on to is some grids of tiles, which are for, if you like, non-regular items. So instead of just one 50cm tile, you might have a herringbone tile or some such design like that. In the past, you know, we've been restricted to just one tile that repeats itself. So with this new program, we've got a whole new world of tiles for you. So what you do down here is I go to create new, and when I press that, you can see that I can create three different types of material. One is the standard sheet, one is a tile, one is net only, which net only just means there's no product on it. It just gives you a net area and perimeter. But if I click on tile, you can see that we've got some built-in grids here that can be used within the program. So we've got the simple tile, a brick bond tile, wood strip, checkerboard, a tile with a key square, grid of tiles, herringbone, raised access. Now, as well as these built-in ones, there is also a built-in tile designer, so that if somebody gives you a ceramic installation to do with 5 or 6 different elements, they can be built up as needed. But these should suffice for most of the normal contract non-ceramic type of installations. So let's just have a look at herringbone. If I double click on that, you can see here that I've got 2 dimensions within the herringbone. One is the longer dimension and one is the shorter dimension. So this is a 1 foot by 6 inch tile, and each tile is laid at 90 degrees to itself. Now if I press OK and I change that product to herringbone, quantify it, there you go, you see the whole room has been quantified in that grid of tiles. Like in the old program, you've got this display of which bits of waste are being used up where within the program. So for example, you've got a bit of red here, which means that's a cut off and use that bit of waste. 9 times out of 10 you wouldn't need to use that to your fitters, you'll leave it up to them to save the bigger bits. If I press that button here, this one, all those external bits are removed and we just see the final floor plan. So if I can zoom in, again you can see that the herringbone grid is left there. Now although there are 2 elements within the herringbone, you've got the horizontal and the vertical, because it's the same size, when we do the colour summary we just get one total because it's the same tile just rotated 90 degrees. So that's the herringbone. I'll also show you the key square, because one of the problems with the old Callidus key square is that you either had key squares everywhere or nowhere. With this one you've got a lot more control. So if I bring up tile with key square, the program asks me, in other words, it's asking me the number of rows and the number of columns, and in this case it's the number of rows and columns between each key square. So if I want to have, say, 2 tiles across and 3 tiles down and then a key square, I would put in 2 rows, 3 columns, and then what you see now is we've got 3 across and 2 down and a key square. So on the other tiles there are no key squares. So if I press OK there and select tile with key square, quantify that, zoom in, there you can see your grid of tiles with the key square on it. So for normal carpet and VCT tiles that's fine. If you're doing ceramic job, you'll also notice up here on all of the built-in tiles there's also a grout thickness. So if I come in here and I put in 0.25 of an inch, what we should find is, I'm going to change that colour as well because it's a bit, just change it to something else. Press OK, quantify that, and you can see now that the program leaves a gap between each tile. So the tiles are spaced, they're 1 foot wide, but they're also 0.25 of an inch space between them. So what you've got is, if you like, a slightly larger coverage for the tiles, because you've got a 1/4 of an inch gap that'll be filled in with grout. Okay, let's have a look at another tile. If I do create new, we can go for grid of tiles. Now again, this asks me to put in the number of rows and columns, not this time for a key square, but just to create a grid. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the designer. Now at the moment this is all built up 1 foot by 1 foot, and that's all there is to it. But when I go into the designer, what you can see is that you've got this block here. Now when you first use this, you might need to just play around with it a while to get the hang of what's going on, but all you've got is that each tile within Callidus is a grid of 1 or more tiles plus 2 what we call repeaters, which tell the program that I put down these 9 tiles and then the next block is put down so that this tile will fit over here, and in the next row that tile will go down here. So if I pull that and drag it down, you'll see that a gap appears in the installation, and likewise if I pull that across we get a gap in the installation because it'll be putting down 9 and the next lot are too far apart. So if I drag that back and drag that back,